Joining us today, we have Oliver Morrissey from the School of Economics to discuss current issues and let us know the benefits of studying an economics degree at Nottingham. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Could you tell me what economics is?
Right, well, one of the features of economics is that it has core material that all students will cover. And there are three core subjects or modules, as they'd be called at university.
Mm-hmm.
The first of those is microeconomics, which is really about how do agents behave?
Mm-hmm.
How do individuals behave when they're making consumption choices? You know, if the prices, as we know now, if you have a time when prices go up or the prices of strawberries and blueberries go up, you've got limited income.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you decide? Do you decide, oh, I'm going to switch to apples and pears, or I'm going to search for a supermarket or a market that sells what I want cheaper?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at how, that's microeconomics of how individuals behave. They've got a limited income. There are things they want to buy. How do they respond to changes in price? How do they respond to changes in their income? Also, within microeconomics, you'll also look at the behavior of firms. How do firms make production decisions, investment decisions, location decisions? How do supermarkets decide where they're going to locate? They'll be interested in the price of land, but also in access to the type of income groups that shop at that supermarket. And then microeconomics also brings the two of those together by looking at how markets operate. How competitive are they? Or do you have monopoly firms? How do firms compete with each other to get those consumers that they want? The second core area in economics is macroeconomics, which is looking at it's aggregating up these decisions of individuals to look at how does that affect the economy. So everybody will often read in the media a lot of discussion when the Bank of England is deciding on, well, will we change the interest rate? And that's a macroeconomic monetary policy. But by changing the interest rate, it influences how investors, firms, individuals will all behave. And it affects how the economy will behave. Concerns with policies to influence unemployment are captured by macroeconomic policy. And it also looks at the behavior of government, taxation, spending decisions. All of those will affect how individuals behave, and all of that aggregates up to how the economy. And the third core area is quantitative methods. So some of that is basic maths, the maths that you require for economics, but a lot of it will then, particularly in the first 2 years, be on data analysis. How do you, if you collect data, how do you analyze it? What test do you use? How do you know if you have data on consumers and sales in a supermarket and prices change, and you want to look at that data and see, well, how did these consumers react to those price changes? You need statistical tools, statistical analysis, and that allows you to say, yeah, this is how they responded. And those are the foundations. Every economics student will do those, and those are the reasons why it's an attractive degree for career. The majority of economics students are at least thinking of working in financial sectors defined quite broadly. And that can range anything from a trader to a financial analyst to a corporate relations person to a business consultant. And it's not, they don't go that way because economics teaches them about finance. What it does teach you is how to conduct analysis, how to think in an analytical way, and how to analyze data and observe patterns and say, well, okay, if we make this investment decision, what's likely to happen? What do we think is going to happen in the global economy or inflation in the future, and how does that influence your decisions? Economists are equipped with the skills to analyze in that way, and that makes them, if they're good, attractive for financial firms
Yeah.
of that sector.
Yeah.
But many of them go into different areas as well.
It's quite transferable.
It's a transferable skill. Quite a few will go into work in the civil service. They have plenty of economists. Many will work in firms, but maybe as an economist, or not even, they may not have the label economist, but because they've got skills, employers value it. Many others will go into work in charities. They can often get skills that are quite helpful in designing an advocacy program. How do they influence government? How do you build an argument to say, look, if we do this, this is the most likely outcome, or here's the problem, this is what we need to do. So they can work in that area.
You touched a bit back there about like current economic issues with inflation, cost of living, that sort of thing. How does the course relate to those current issues?
The main way it relates to Nottingham is we're a research-led department, which means that staff are teaching in areas in which they work. So, for example, one area of economics that's prominent in our work is international economics. And that can include looking at topics like Brexit. What was the effect of Brexit on Britain's trade? What was the effect on British firms, on exporting firms, on importing firms?
Yeah.
And quantifying those effects.
Yeah.
And in fact, one colleague is quite pleased that their estimates have proved to be largely correct, at least in direction. Another area in which a lot of our staff work is behavioral economics, where you're trying to understand what influences people's behavior, or how can you influence better behavior. And that's kind of closely related to what they call the nudge idea. And they have a behavioral team in the Cabinet Office. So those are the types of applications of economic analysis that are transferable skills and suitable to a range of different jobs.
And how does the teaching on the course ensure that students study all of those different elements to become strong and desirable graduates on the job market?
Well, all of the core, they'll have to do micro, macro, and quantitative methods, which will involve data analysis, and that will provide the basic skills. Then they choose from a wide range of options. Some of those will be explicitly related to analysing behaviour or doing economic experiments. Others will be related to international economics broadly defined, which can be anything from understanding development in low-income countries to exchange rates and how exchange rates affect things, or how trade conflicts between the United States and China have impacts on other countries.
Yeah.
Economics also, it relates to some other disciplines. So one area that some of economic research or some of the modules, they'll show awareness of politics. It's politicians who make the choices. Economists can tell them, well, if you do this, this is what's likely to happen. But there'll be economists who disagree, so it's politicians who decide what will actually be done. So you have to have some understanding of politics. Behavioral economics, microeconomics, is closely related to psychology.
Yeah.
There's aspects like that. Some of us work on health areas, so there can be links to health sciences.
Yeah.
And some economists would end up working in that area.
Yeah.
So it does give a wide range
Of
of
Yeah.
opportunities. And there's about half of lecture time in the first 2 years is on that core. But then you've got a range of different options
Yeah.
that you can choose from.
So you've got this wealth of opportunity ahead of them. But are there kind of professional networking opportunities and opportunities to build those relationships during the course?
There are a lot of opportunities. At Nottingham, the main opportunities, particularly related, not exclusively, but particularly for those thinking of finance jobs,
Yeah.
comes from a student society, which is the Nottingham Economics and Finance Society.
NEFS.
NEFS, that is well known. It's a big, vibrant and quite successful
Yeah.
student-led society. Staff will assist them when asked, but they basically do it all themselves.
Yeah.
And they will have potential employers coming to visit. They help a lot with, increasingly nowadays, students, even when they arrive in their first year, within 2 weeks, they're thinking, how do I apply for spring term? Which is when they get work experience with companies. Or how do I apply for internships? Now, the university has an excellent careers and employability service, but NEFS also helps. And students who have done an internship will advise those who are applying. Then the other main networking opportunity is our, I suppose, work experience opportunity, is the Careers and Employability Service. So they help students who might be interested in doing placements, which can be during term, locally based, or there's an option for students to do a placement year between their second and third year if they want to. It's not part of the course, but some students choose to do that. The more adventurous can also take benefit of study abroad opportunities. We're part of what's called a global university network. So students can go to Canada, Australia, if they're adventurous, Japan. They can spend a semester in our sister campuses in China or Malaysia. And quite a few students take those study abroad opportunities as well.
Lots of opportunities then.
There's more opportunities than there's more opportunities than they can possibly use. Some of them are more difficult to avail of than others.
Okay.
Study abroad, it is competitive because not everybody can do it. But there are enough opportunities for the students who want to do it.
Yeah. Perfect.
And they tend to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I would have loved to have done that if it weren't for COVID. So you've already touched quite a lot on career paths, but I'll ask the question anyway in case there's anything that you want to add. But where can an economics degree at Nottingham take you?
Well, if you take recent students, there will always be some who get jobs with the big companies. Now, whether it's consultancy type work with Ernst & Young or PricewaterhouseCoopers, or many will get work in the banks. Could be a recent graduate got a job in Santander, others have gone to Morgan Stanley, Citi, and they tend to be high-paying jobs.
Yeah.
So a lot of the students will get good or very good job opportunities, but they also go other places. Some go into teaching. Many would end up in the civil service. Some work in international organizations, the United Nations, maybe even getting to the European Commission. And many some work with charities.
Yep.
So there's a wide variety. The vast majority get employment within 15 months of graduation. So
relevant
in that
employment
sense,
as well.
relevant employment. And median salaries, let's say it just makes it very helpful to repay debt.
Yeah. I'm a bit envious of these economics graduates. Yeah.
And economics, of course, as a discipline, will also teach them how to work out how to repay their debt.
Yeah, I could do with that advice as well. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Right.
There's a whole host of information available on the website, which you can visit using the link in the schedule below.